Partnership. Good afternoon to you, Sebastian.
Hi there.
Why is this such a fear, do you think, this risk of having to or being expected to take out these 30-year loans?
Well, leaseholders are absolutely right to think that it's a complete betrayal of everything that has been said hitherto. I mean, both Prime Ministers Theresa May and Boris Johnson and numerous junior ministers have repeated that leaseholders should not pay, and now, lo and behold, they are. The government wasted 2 years pleading with freeholders, that's the building owners, or more accurately, the secretive and often offshore speculators in a building's income streams, to do the decent thing and pay up for their buildings, and not one did so. Some developers did, and Legal & General did at a site where there owns a shopping centre underneath some flats, but that's it. The rest of this bill is heading for people who bought the flats in good faith.
And this is it's not sort of a concrete plan yet, is it? But we know that earlier in the summer, the housing minister appointed Michael Wade to advise on how to protect leaseholders. And there are rumours, or perhaps you can tell me more, but there are rumours saying he's considering these long-term loans as a means of allowing people to pay over a much longer period of time.
Well, Michael Wade is addressing the parliamentary meeting, the all-party parliamentary group on leasehold on Thursday, which we're the secretariat. But, in the Sunday Times yesterday, one reads that he's an insurance multimillionaire living in a £12 million stately home, and he's going to tell leaseholders in Liverpool, say, living pretty precariously in £80,000 flats, that they're going to have to take out a massive loan, £25,000, to remedy the building failures that were absolutely nothing to do with them. That's the situation at a site called Haysmore Heights in Liverpool. Meanwhile, the private equity ground rent investors in the building, in the offshore Abacus land, part of the secretive Long Harbour Fund, pays nothing at all. Indeed, it continues to graze off the ground rents and might clean up with any development potential at the site. I just don't think this is going to fly. I think members of the public can be aghast at the unfairness of this.
One calculation, the kind of loan you've just described there, that one calculation is that it would add £1,000 to £1,500 a year to household bills at interest rates of 3%.
Yes, and it will completely devalue these properties. I mean, who's going to buy a flat with a 25,000 quid debt on it if you can buy one without? So the implications of this are going to be tremendous. I think a wider point I'd like to make, if I may, is just that we have an absolutely toxic house building culture in this country. It's massively subsidised, with £16 billion riding on Help to Buy purchases, and it's about to be the recipient of yet more public money through Build, Build, Build. And how does it repay us all for this credulous generosity? With rip-off leases with doubling ground rents, sales of residential freeholds, the income streams for apartment buildings to sort of dodgy and often anonymous offshore punters, and build spectacularly badly with tragic consequences over Grenfell. And it has now ruined a generation of first-time buyers. What is the point?
What do you expect? Sorry, go on.
What's the point of Build, Build, Build? Which Boris Johnson repeats, to get a new generation of first-time buyers onto the housing ladder, when the present generation of first-time buyers is facing utter ruin because of this.
How can they and charities like yours fight this if it's brought forward? I mean, obviously MPs will have plenty to say about it because they'll have constituents facing the kind of situations you've just described. But it's important to say it isn't policy yet that these loans be brought in. It's thought to be a recommendation.
They're testing the waters, I would say. But what needs to be explored is, I mean, there is this issue. Was government to blame, regulatory failure to blame, or were the developers to blame? It is a bit of both, I would say. But anyway, given that government and developers work so closely, rather unhealthily closely together, both can sort it out. I mean, a huge levy on these house builders and the freeholders would be appropriate to sort out this cladding crisis, and we're going to put forward a detailed proposal of this at the parliamentary meeting on Thursday.
And that's a levy that you say they collectively can afford in a way that individuals cannot.
Correct. And I mean, there are other examples of an industry paying collectively for an industry-wide failure in the pension industry, for example, and in other jurisdictions. So, I mean, they are responsible for this mess, not the consumers that bought this, unwittingly bought these flawed products, and they can pay to put it right.
Do you believe, I mean, you might not know this one way or another, but I wonder what your thoughts are, that when the Grenfell inquiry, whenever it is that the Grenfell inquiry reports back, depending on where blame and responsibility lands, do you think that could have an implication for campaigns such as your own?
Yes, I do. I mean, what's coming out of the Grenfell inquiry is absolutely shocking.
Oh, some of the testimony has been staggering, hasn't it?
Yes, and I mean, if we find that there's corporate manslaughter charges involved here, then I mean, the agenda will change. What it's doing is shining a spotlight on a very unhealthy relationship between building safety regulators and the house building sector, which has routinely been marking its own homework. And the focus is really on institutions like housing sectors, building research establishment in Watford and so on, and finding out what exactly has gone wrong. And it's just looking very bad.
Thank you very much for talking to us today, Sebastian. Sebastian O'Kelly, Chief Executive of the charity Leasehold Knowledge Partnership. If you